What does you being you truly feel like? Do you know that sort of energetic experience of you being fully connected to yourself?
Welcome to the Soulful Reminders Podcast, your go to spot for spiritual inspiration, growth, and connection to your true self. I'm your host, Emily Kady. Each week, I invite inspiring guests to share their unique spiritual lessons and insights, helping us all remember who we are at our core. This is more than just a podcast, it's a vibrant community where we'll explore how to unlock our full potential and embrace our essence in every aspect of our life. Life can get busy and overwhelming, but here we focus on those soulful nudges that remind us of our incredible power. Whether you're seeking wisdom, a bit of encouragement, or simply a moment of inspiration, you're in the perfect place. Grab your favorite drink, get cozy. Let's dive into this journey together because you deserve to shine your brightest. Welcome, everyone, to my Soulful Reminders podcast. Today, I am super excited and honored to have Elana Davidson with me. She is a best-selling author of the book Finding Your Own Happy, the Soul's Search's Guide for Peace and Happiness in Everyday Life. Where was this book when I needed this years ago? Seriously, Elana, this book is amazing. She specializes in working with empaths and highly sensitive people, and she's able to help them put an end to the emotional exhaustion and the drain that we tend to go through, the overwhelm. And so she's able to, by her own intuitive gifts and skills, be able to help heal past and present trauma. So, Elana, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And like what you said about where was this book, this is exactly why I wrote the book, because I was like, where was this information when I needed it? And I spent so many years searching for answers to sort of my unnameable struggle that later I came to discover was partly that I was highly empathic, and like, nobody was giving me the tools or the answers that I needed to change my experience. And so that's what prompted me to write my book in the first place. It was like, this is everything that I needed that nobody was telling me, that I want other people to know so that they don't have to struggle and suffer the same way I did, and that they can get to a much better place much faster than it took me to get there.
I love it. And yes, I'm genuinely sincere when I said, where was this book when I needed it? Like being an empath, and I believe a lot of us have a lot of empathic um qualities to us, but highly empathic people or sensitive people, we didn't have those tools, or we didn't know how to deal with it. We were the odd one growing up because we're so sensitive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see so many people rocking around in the world, so many highly empathic people that don't know they're empathic, walking around the world wondering, like, what is wrong with me? Why am I not like other people? Like, I don't get it. I don't seem to know how to function. And really internalizing the sense that there's something wrong with yourself when really you just have a different way of being in the world that you haven't yet learned to understand or to navigate in a way that works for you. And so that's the part that kind of breaks my heart, is seeing so many beautifully talented, caring people thinking that there's something screwed up, wrong, or broken about them, when really they just don't have the right information to understand how to work with the way that they experience and process the world.
Absolutely. And feeling so like isolated through the process of it. So I
Yeah.
know I pushed myself out of different opportunities because I knew my sensitivity would not be, I didn't know how to manage my sensitivity. So my
Mhm.
sensitivity wouldn't be a fit in a different job or certain things. So it's really been detrimental in a lot of aspects of my life up until understanding what I had and understanding this gift, and understanding how to manage and balance my emotions. But prior to, it was very detrimental. So I would love to know more about you, and when did you first understand like you're an empath? Or could you share a little bit about like what your childhood was like, and how you navigated your sensitivity?
Yeah. Well, I think I've been sensitive probably my whole life, like most of us, but it wasn't until my early 30s that it really clicked for me. And there was a few striking moments. There was one moment I had been dating this guy and we'd broken up. And like the whole time I was just an emotional wreck. And I went back to his house to get something and I walked in the door and I felt like this wave of emotion just hit me in the face. And then I turned around and walked out and went like, "Oh my gosh, I was fine before I walked in the door. Now I feel not fine." And I walk out and I feel fine again. Like, what's going on here?
Wow.
And so that was really one of those really powerful moments of contrast. Like, okay, I'm good. Now I'm not good. Now I'm good. That wasn't me. None of that was me. And it was such a like, whoa, okay, I spent like this whole summer in this relationship in an emotional wreck because I was actually feeling everything that was going on with everybody around him and his family because he lived with his family at the time. And um, that was the beginning, right? To say, oh, okay, maybe all these things that I feel, all the ways that I'm super emotional might not all be originating from within myself. They might not all be my issues and traumas, although I certainly do have a piece of that that's been part of my healing journey and might just be really aware of things. And that was a huge turning point that helped me really sort of start to see, oh, I'm not as crazy and screwed up as I think I am. I don't have as many issues as I think I am, that I think I do. And like, okay, now what do I do with it? So then there came the point where I was like, I would feel stuff, whether I was with people or not, I can feel stuff at a different distance. It doesn't really matter. So, like, for some of us empaths, like, my mom lived across the country and I could pick up the phone and be like, hey, how are you doing? Because I feel like something's going on. Uh, so that I got to the point where I was like, okay, this isn't mine, but still, I felt like crap. I didn't know what to do with it. I was overwhelmed. I would be like, oh my God, I just feel like I know I'm feeling this other person and I can't seem to change it. I don't know what to do with it. And it feels debilitating and I don't know how to function. So there's sort of a process that I think about when I think about the empath journey. And the first thing is just recognizing what is yours and what is not. And that is such a key beginning step. So if you think you're might be empathic, if you like, what is that? Like, it sounds like it's describing me. Start asking yourself, is this actually mine? For every thought, feeling, emotion, sensation, anything that's showing up in your world, just ask yourself, like, is this mine? Is this originating with me? And if it shifts or gets lighter, it wasn't yours. Like, literally, I've been crying and said, wait a minute, is this my tears? Is this my upset? And boom, it disappeared, right?
Mm.
And so that's like step one is like, is this mine? Then step two comes like, okay, if it's not mine and I'm still being impacted by it, what do I do to change that so I'm not taking on and absorbing all of the impacts of everything that, or like, how do I get it out of my system in some way? And then step three is how to learn how to navigate the world more easily so that you don't absorb and take on and be affected by everybody else's energy in the first place. And as you move through these different steps, then life can become a lot easier. Like you were saying, like opportunities, jobs, work, things that like you just can't because of your sensitivity, because of how deeply you're affected by people. I used to think that I was a bit of an introvert, um, but I discovered that actually I just didn't know how to work with energy. I didn't know how to manage being highly sensitive. And once I learned how to work with that, it became so much more easy to be social, to be out in the world, to participate in life in such a different way. And now, even on some of the personality scores, I score more as an extrovert because I learned how to work with all the energy and everybody's
Interesting.
energy. So
I am so glad you said that because I always thought I was an introvert. And then I'm like, well, what do they call it? The hybrid of the introvert extrovert.
ambivert
Yes.
is a
Okay. I'm
term
like,
I've
I think I'm
heard.
more of that because I really actually love people. Like last night,
Yeah.
I was with a group of gals and we were just hanging out. And they were talking about talking to strangers, and I'm like, I'll talk to anyone. I don't
Yeah.
care. I love talking to
Yeah.
people. I love
Beautiful.
meeting people. Um, but so I think maybe I am more of an extrovert, but because exactly what you said, I haven't understood how to fully manage that energy, and it drains me. So it will put me in bed for like a few hours afterwards sometimes. Like the two,
Yeah.
a little tired because I was out with four gals last or three gals last night. There were four of us. And I'm like, okay, I need to like reassemble myself.
Yeah. And I used to literally come home and sit on my bed and stare at the wall. Like I was so
Yeah, you don't
overwhelmed by
want
the
any
world.
stimulation at all. No TV, no music, nothing. You just want to check out. Yeah.
And now like I can be pretty busy and go from one thing to the next
Yeah.
without it draining me, without being overwhelmed by it, because I've learned how to in the moment sort of stick with my own energy or interpret what's coming at me in a way that then doesn't drain me, overwhelm me. I just like, okay, I see that this person has some things going on, or like, oh, I'm not gonna, I feel this energetic opportunity. I'm gonna say no to it. Thank you. And I'm gonna go over here and do me. And so
I
just
love that.
really sticking, one of the things I teach my clients is how to really first of all, fill yourself up with your own energy. So
Mm,
really, well, even before that is really getting to know what your own energetic signature looks like. So what does you being you truly feel like?
mhm,
Do you know that sort of energetic experience of you being fully connected to yourself?
mm,
Because if you can get in touch with that, then it's much easier to recognize when you're not being that. Right? Oops, something happened. I'm not in my own energy anymore. And then to really fill yourself up with that energy so that you are being, I talk about being the most dominant energy in the room, right? So making your energy the sort of, at least in your bubble, the loudest frequency, the biggest energy, right? Because so many of us, we just kind of, it's like I describe it like disappearing, right? Your energy just like disappears and you make space for everybody else. And then, of course, it's like tweaking with you. But if you stay connected to your own energy and your own frequency, then you're not going to be so overwhelmed and so mixed up with everybody else.
mm. That's really powerful. You know, a lot of times before I do psychic readings, I do exactly what you're talking about, but I've never thought to take that and go out into the world. Because,
Wow.
yeah, because in
Okay.
my readings, I want to be totally connected with my own frequency and I want it expansive. I
Yeah.
want it to be as expansive as possible so that I'm not being influenced by outside energy that's not going to, serve my clients to their best, um,
Yeah.
highest good. So I love that though. So just to be totally aware and take that out. Thank you for that. Because
Yeah. And
last
I
night,
do talk about that in the book. There's an exercise where I walk people through, well, there's
oh
several,
yeah.
but that's a piece of it. So,
Thank you. I know I have your book. I've started going through it, but I haven't gone deep. I'm going to go deep into that because it's really important. So in this case, like what I'm going through and feeling this and having this energy come into me, what sort of suggestions would you have to protect people like me?
yeah. So I have an interesting belief about protection, which is that protection actually makes you vulnerable. That's going to maybe sound really sort of odd, but like protection is the belief that you can be harmed
Mm,
and that you are vulnerable and in need of sort of safety, whatever. There's a line for a few years I studied the Course in Miracles, and in that, one of the things that stood out the most to me is this line that says, um, it is in, let's see, when I defend myself, I am attacked. It is in my defenselessness that my safety lies. It's a little bit of like a mind thing, but it's like, yeah, when I defend myself, like that's when I go out of my power and believe that I can be harmed and put myself in a smaller energy in a vulnerable space, and that when I just know, when I let my barriers down, when I'm not fighting back against anything, that I've neutralized it. Basically, it has no effect on me.
Mm.
Um, so, to answer your question in a more practical way, one of the exercises I write about in the book is making yourself, your energy bigger, expanding yourself out as big as the entire universe. Because when we're as big as the entire universe, then anything that's moving through our system is going to have limited impact on us. It's when we're finite, when we're contracted, when we're small, that then those storms are big, that energy is big. Or, like I say in the book, is if you take a glass of water and you put ink in the glass of water, the whole glass will turn that color of the ink. But if you put a drop of ink in the ocean, nothing noticeable happens. So if you can be as big and expansive as the entire ocean, then all of this energy that you're perceiving, whether it's, what's going on with the collective or it's an individual in your life, it's like, oh, I have space for that. I can be with all of that without it creating a storm in my life, without it being so upsetting. So that has been really helpful for me, is like, oh, okay, if there's a lot of turmoil going on, I say, okay, I'm being small, I'm playing small. I need to really expand out my energy and stop being contracted. And I know, like, you kind of have to play around with this. It's a lot of kind of woo-woo words, but start to
I'm
play
all
with
about the working in
it.
the spiritual realm. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry
So
about that.
start to play with it. Start to feel into, like, oh, can I feel in my body when I feel like I'm being expansive? And do I feel what it's like to be contracted? And can I play with that and shift that? Like, oh, okay, I'm like all caught up in this turmoil. What would happen if I shifted my energy a little and expanded out a little bit? Okay, can I notice the difference? Can I play with this? And then you kind of learn for yourself, like, oh, this is what I'm doing energetically, because that was a lot of how I trained myself. Like, what am I doing with my energy? How am I responding? When am I being contracted? When am I leaving my own energy, my own body, my own self, and popping into somebody else's reality, or letting them occupy my space? And just really playing and working with all of that till I got really like, okay, this is me in my own space and in my own body. Okay. Like, and now how do I work on staying there or only leaving when I want to, and not having it be all this automatic sort of energetic entanglement with other people or other energies?
This is really powerful information. One, your protection definition or your explanation on that is, I never thought of it that way. And it's true. It's really true of like not confining yourself. And that's again, it's limiting your energy because you're confining yourself
Yeah.
to that.
Well, you're
I,
making things outside of yourself more powerful than you are.
yeah, you're
And then,
disempowering yourself.
and when you do that, then you think you're vulnerable, things can harm you. And not to say that there aren't powerful energies and powerful forces and people that maybe want to do you harm, and then you learn how to navigate in a way that is for your safety and well-being and protection. I don't mean don't have boundaries. That's not at all what I'm saying, but it's like sort of this trust and this belief and this faith. It's like, the image that's coming to my mind is like patting the thing or the person on the head and say, "Oh, aren't you cute? You think you can hurt me. You think you have this power over me." Like, "Oh, that's nice and cute, but I'm okay."
I love that. That's a great image. Um, Going into also your definition of just the expansiveness and how that when you expand yourself so much and it dilutes whatever may impact you. Like right now, I need to focus on expanding my energy. So what the collective is going through, it's diluting in my space. It's not
Yeah.
having the same impact. How do you find yourself being able to maintain that expansive energy? Because to me, that is, at least for me, it feels like it could be a lot of energy to create that.
Yeah. So as we're talking about the expansion, there's also a times when it's appropriate to cocoon yourself or contract your energy, or to like create a safe space for yourself. So like the expansive piece that I'm talking about is not expanding your energy and awareness out to like perceiving the entire world. like that's a little bit different. It's more like, how do I make my energy so big that I'm not being harmed?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we do a different kind of expansive thing is where we have our antennae, our awareness, our energy sort of out tracking everything that's happening in the world. And it can feel so overwhelming and so just impossible to handle. And those are times when I have to tell myself, like, with certain people I've had that with where I'm just overly sensitive and aware. Usually some sort of trauma thing has gone on with that person. And then I'm just tracking what's happening in their and I've had to say to myself, I do not need to know what this person is going through right now. I can be safe. So let me back up. I'm introducing a lot of things. Like, so one thing that empaths will do, like a lot of empaths have histories of trauma. Most of the empaths that I've spoken with that struggle with being empathic have a history of trauma. One of the things that we learned how to do to respond to trauma was to track other people and track their energy and be sort of hyper vigilant with, if you will, but it's like on a next level because you can perceive things that you like. My example, like I can call my mom, even though I haven't talked to her, and be like, what's going on? I feel it, right? So we almost like have automatically trained ourselves to be aware of everybody around us and all of the energy around us and tracking that energy to try to, and my sort of learning around it and discovery around it for myself and then with clients is that we do that in part to try to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe. That if we're aware of everything, then we can know when a threat is coming, all that kind of stuff. So I got to a point where that was happening for me, especially with certain people that I'd had some difficult interactions with. And I had to say to myself and my subconscious, I had to say, look, you don't need to do that in order to be safe. Like we can find different ways to be safe. You don't need to know that they're processing their childhood wound right now and feel that. You can be in your own energy in your own bubble. So that's getting back to this cocoon thing is like, let me pull myself in. I'm going to shut that channel down, right? Or like if you think about radio signals or something, I'm turning the volume way down on that one. I do not need to hear what's going on in that station. Thank you very much. I'm going to do me and and also like just working with energy or like for me it's like my subconscious, my superconscious. I'm like, "Hey, I don't need to be aware every moment, but please, universe, God, spirit, whatever self, higher self, please, if there's something that is important for me to know and to be aware of, then just alert me." It's like I'm not getting the play by play anymore. I'm getting the most
The
important
headlines.
alerts. The
Yeah.
headlines are the alerts. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, this person is up to something a little bit fishy. Maybe you should pay attention to what's going on here.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. But otherwise, it's like we're toning that one down
I
because I
love
think
that.
that's the strategy, right? You're trying to track every little thing because you want to know if there's something that's going to be a threat or going to be a problem.
Right.
So if you can learn how to work with your system in a way to say, let's only pay attention when it's elevated to the level of true threat. And then, my intuition, my I'll get pings, I'll get information like, hey, there's something to pay attention. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to pay attention to it. But thanks for giving me peace the rest of the time.
I had a near death experience back in 2015. And this is like when I really understood what an empath was. Um, and while I was transitioning, I remember this moment where I thought, oh my gosh, my mom, my dad, and my dog are going to be just devastated when they find out that I passed. And in that moment, I thought, I'm not attached to them. I
Mhm.
don't feel their pain.
Mhm.
I had always felt everyone's pain.
Right. Wow. Yeah. It's
And
such a big
I felt whole.
realization.
It was amazing. I felt whole for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And it was liberating. And it was like, I could go. I can, I don't,
Mhm.
I felt whole. I didn't feel their pain. I realized their pain was theirs. I didn't have to carry it. I was enabling them by carrying their pain.
Yep. Hmm.
I
We talk about
wasn't,
that a lot.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm disempowering myself and I'm enabling them. Disempowering them.
Hmm.
Um, it was such an amazing awakening to see that
Yeah.
and come out and go, okay, I don't have to feel everyone's pain. I don't have to try to transmute it anymore.
Right. You
Because
don't,
that's
I
what I'm
mean,
always subconsciously doing, transmuting people's energy for
yeah.
them.
And I talk about that in the book, how like as an empath, it feels like almost like the most natural thing in the world is like, okay, so I'm aware of this person's pain and it's affecting me and it's affecting them. So let me just handle it and we'll all be better off for it. Is like kind of
Yes.
the reasoning, but it doesn't really work. I can
No.
tell you from personal experience of trying to resolve other people's issues and pain for them and being a total recovering rescuer and people pleaser. It doesn't
Yes.
actually
Me
work,
too.
but we think like, oh, I'll just take the pain away from them. So, and then everybody will feel better. Well, the thing is, pain is information. Pain is a way to wake people up to the consequences of their choices, all these kinds of things. So when you get in between people and their pain, then you are sort of getting disrupting the feedback loop that is giving them the opportunity to grow and to transform. And basically, the way I see it is prolonging their journey of sort of coming out of their suffering.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
talked about this recently on a coaching call because somebody was struggling with some ways that she'd fallen into her own people pleasing. But there's such a difference between helping people through helping them face their life and face their challenges and face their pain and being the one that gets in between a person and their suffering and their pain. And I had to really learn how to do that. Like, how do I have somebody's back and support them in facing their life and facing the challenges of their lives instead of trying to rescue them from those things and buffer them from the impacts of those things? Because doesn't work for anyone. And I mean, that's also where I got feeling totally drained and overwhelmed and repeatedly needing to just, I mean, I feel like I just blew up my life. I can't handle it anymore. I'm running away to the woods. I'm not going to talk to anybody for days at a time. This is also, you were asking how I, like the beginning of my empath journey, this was a piece of it. It was like such a people pleaser, overextending myself constantly, then feeling like I couldn't function, feel like my life was falling apart and dropping everything, maybe even sometimes quitting jobs, dropping everything, running away to the woods. My family has a cabin in the woods. I go to the cabin in the woods. And then after 3 or 4 days, I would be like, oh, I'm okay. I can function again. Like, wow. And then I started to realize I like felt like I had so many problems in my life. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I just have everybody else's problems. I myself am doing pretty okay and fine, but I'm taking on and trying to resolve everybody else's problems for them. My life feels like it's a mess because of it. Okay. And that's when I had to start to look at myself and say, okay, I need to stop being such a people pleaser and rescuer. I need to start having some boundaries and also care about myself as much as I care about anybody else because I'm not serving anybody when I'm like sort of destroying my own life trying to save everybody else.
You touched on something that is vital, is that you ran away to the woods for 3 days to basically reset your entire nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being an empath, we tend to be overachievers. And I know for me personally, taking those breaks are rare. And
Hmm.
until I'm at complete depletion. Like I know like thinking of like work all week, come the weekend, it's like I'm exhausted. I need to clean the house. I need to, do
Yeah.
groceries, laundry, whatever, all these stuff. And I just sometimes I can't do it.
Hmm.
But I will force myself. But there's other times that I will just be like, I can't. There's nothing here. I am depleted. And I rest. And then it's amazing after rest how much you get done and you are like recharged and you're like, but why is it that empaths don't allow themselves rest?
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. It's like, yeah, we go beyond our limit,
We
right?
do.
And we override our limit repeatedly. And I'm shocked often how little recovery time I actually need before I'm ready to go again. Like when I get to that place of burnout, I think it's going to be like a month. Like I don't want to ever talk to anybody again, or like, or even like after a day by myself, I'm like, where are my people? I need to go talk to people. But like going into it, I'm like, oh, I can't. I can't. So part of it is we've learned how to override those signals throughout our lives, right? That's a piece of it. Um, we're so busy handling everybody else's stuff, everybody else's energy. We think some of us think that we need to save the world and
Hmm.
save everybody in our lives, right? And that if we stop for 1 minute, the whole world's going to fall apart. So there is a little bit, I think sometimes some of us empaths have a little bit of a complex. We think
I
that,
agree.
you
Yeah,
know,
I've
we
fallen
can
into
save
that
the
trap.
world. And
Hmm.
um, so one of the things I had to learn is where's my edge, right? And so, and I talk about this also in the book, but this metaphor of falling off a cliff and having to pick myself up over and over again. And I kept falling off the cliff, and that was when I would run away to the woods. I'd blow my entire life up. I'd, quit my job, like, just not be able to handle anything. And so then I had to start to recognize, like, maybe I don't have to go to such extremes. Maybe it doesn't have to be this constant roller coaster drama. Maybe I can just recognize when I'm getting to the point where things are too much and take a break and put on a pause. So I had to really sort of start to train myself to look at what are the signals and the warning signs that I'm reaching that edge and not just go over it. And so at first I was looking back from having fallen off the cliff and being like, okay, what just happened here? Because I was just completely unaware until I was in the crash and burn and I couldn't take it anymore, right? And so then I would look back and be like, what just happened? And then I started to be able to track a little bit more what is happening now. Like, oh, I'm saying yes when I want to say no. Oh, I'm feeling stressed and burned out and like I just really need some time to myself. Or like in a particular case, it was like I said yes to something for someone. It felt expansive, it felt good, it felt like a contribution. And then they kept needing more and more from me and asking for more and more. And it went from being like, oh, yeah, I love this. And I feel like needed and want to be a part of this thing to like now it's draining my energy and exhausting me. And I mean, I had some people that were in pretty desperate situations that I was trying to help that then just keep taking like whatever I would give, they would take. And pretty soon I'm starting to drown myself. And so I had to say, I say yes until only up until the moment that it feels like good for me. As soon as it starts to feel like a drain or a cost to my energy or a depletion, like I need to stop because that's not going to serve anybody. It's going to take me down and make me not function either. So really learning how to, I mean, it's boundary work, right? Learning how to say,
Yeah.
learning what your own boundaries are, first of all, because you can't set boundaries if you don't know inside yourself what your boundary actually is. And then so have to learning the internal process and then learning how to um, enact that and say, I'm sorry, but I'm not available like at this, like I can't help you with that. Maybe you could, and trusting also. So this is like that complex that we need to save the world. Trusting that if I say no, that doesn't mean I'm abandoning that person. It doesn't mean that that person won't get the help that they need. It doesn't mean that I don't care, because those were all playing in for me, and that this trust that if it's not mine to do, I talk a lot about this with my clients, asking myself, is this mine to do? And if it's mine to do, it will feel light, it will feel expansive, it will feel like I get to contribute, and it's also contributing to me in my life in some way. Feels like a pain, a drag, a groan, then maybe it's not mine to do. And if it's not mine to do, then it's somebody else's to do, or that person is going to find a way to do it themselves that's going to be more empowering. And taking on that practice has really saved me from being stuck in the people pleasing cycle that usually had me feeling at the end of the day crummy about myself and my life because I was trying to rescue everybody else. And also the hidden agenda that other people would turn around and then come back and do that for me, which they never did, which I think a lot of people can relate to as well.
Meaning people don't come back and help you out.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
so the hidden agenda of the rescuer and the people pleaser is, yeah, we want to save the world, we want to help people out, but there's a hidden agenda also
that they
that
want. Yes.
we're being caring and loving,
Mhm.
and we want it's it's a thing where we want people to love and care about us.
Right.
And so we're being loving and caring. And then when they don't be as generous, be as giving as we are, then we can feel hurt about it or feel like we just give and give and give. And then when we need somebody, nobody's there for us. That's also something I've seen a lot in the empath world. So learning how to balance and really give to people either freely and joyously with no expectation of return, or building the relationships in your life that do have mutuality, where somebody is in a space to reciprocate. Because some people are just in such desperate places in their lives that they don't have the capacity to
Right.
to return the gift.
Yes. So do you find that most empaths are not connected to their body at first? Most empaths that are, what do they call it? Dark empaths. They're not balanced. Um,
Yeah, I
because
think
a lot of what you're talking about sounds like you need to be truly in your body to be
yeah.
able to
So most of the
function.
people that I work right with are the people that struggle with being empathic. There are empaths that I've spoken with that aren't my clients because they don't need me, that have learned how to navigate their gifts. It's not overwhelming. It doesn't, they just know things. They see it as a beautiful gift. It doesn't have this element of, people in the empath world, we talk about gift and curse. So if there's some part of it that feels like a curse, then there is some imbalance. And yeah, oftentimes you're disconnected from your body, you're disconnected from your own energy. You don't know where you end and other people begin. I think of it as like a watercolor painting where you just bleed out into that next
Mm,
realm. And I had to really work with that as well to see like, okay, where can I define my energetic self and not just be bleeding into everybody else all the time. So it is a lot of knowing yourself, grounding yourself work,
mhm,
um, just understanding energy. A lot of it is, at least for me, has been understanding emotional energy and like, what am I sensing and experiencing, and those lines, right? Because I'm sensing and experiencing myself and other people as if they're one and the same. And that is really confusing, right? Probably a lot of your listeners will know that's really confusing. Like, what is going on here? And so to be able to start to differentiate that out and to say, okay, that is yours and this is mine. Like, even in romantic relationships, sometimes I have to ask myself, is this my feeling or is this the other person's feeling that I'm picking up on? Like, how do I actually feel about this person? Right? Independent of them, because they give me their feelings of me. And now am I just feeling their feelings of me that then I'm reflecting? So can get kind of loopy.
absolutely. And so, is there like a daily practice or something that you can recommend for people to help get them into their bodies? Because I know for me, like I've always been somebody that has been in the upper chakras, never
Yeah.
totally disassociated from my body.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the moment I got into my body, I fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, this feels
Yeah.
amazing.
So there's a couple things that could be going on, right? There are practices, and I'll get to that in a minute. For some people, there's especially people who have experienced a lot of abuse, especially physical abuse in their body has not been a safe place to be
Right.
and has
Mhm.
not been a comforting place to be. And I've had clients I've had to really work with because they are checking out, they're disassociating in some way, or they're just going other places. I had to really work with their subconscious to help their subconscious understand that the body is now an okay, safe place to be and that they can come back and that they can re-inhabit their body. So there could be some level of healing work to be done for some people. But that said, there are activities, exercises that one can do to help really reconnect. One of the things I say is like, imagine you're floating away like a balloon. So pull that string of that balloon down and just like tie it off, anchor it to your core somewhere, and like anchor your spirit to your body. Um, I talked a little bit before about filling yourself up with your own energy. So first of all, you got to get to know what you being you feels like. But then I start at the toes and I just have do a visualization where we start with you fill up your toes, you fill up your feet, your ankles, your legs. You just fill up your whole body with your own energy until you have it in every cell. And then you expand it out about 3 feet in every direction. And if you get the book that I do write about that in the book as well, give some of these exercises, then that can be very grounding just to be like, oh, yeah, me in my body. This is what this feels like, right? Or even simple things like your feet on the ground, on the earth. I sometimes imagine myself having roots going into the earth. And then I'll also imagine like the nurturing earth energy flowing up through my roots, like it's the sap of a tree. And that can be very that's more of a cleansing if you feel like you're have lots of other energy floating around in yourself. It can be very cleansing. But I think, yeah, just notice like connecting with your energy and filling yourself up with your own energy, everything. So if I had to pick like a practice, I think that would be a really valuable one as far as like body-based practice. And then the other one that I recommend that everyone should be using is asking yourself, is this my energy? Because it can, and even sometimes when you think it is, it really isn't. And we have been so sort of trained to think that certain things are our energy. Oftentimes, like upsetting things, we'll think, oh, this is my issue, this is my drama. Um, but so often it really is not. That I can say that from my own experience, working with my own journey and also working with lots of clients. It's like we'll get into doing the work and exploring what's sort of behind the curtain for a person. And then we're like, oh yeah, that wasn't mine either, even though I thought it was. Okay, cool. Often the empath journey is that it's certainly true for me, is that we often sense the undercurrents of a person's experience, the thing that they're not willing to show to the world, they're not willing to express, so that hidden or buried emotion, it can be true with other people. You say, like, why are you so sad? What's up with your grief? And they'll say, what are you talking about? I'm fine, because it has been buried so deep in their
They can't
subconscious
feel it.
that they're cut off from it and they're not
Right.
aware of it. And
Yes.
this is what I think what makes it so confusing for some empaths is like you check in with a person, you say like, are you feeling this way? And they're like, no, I'm not feeling this way. And then what a lot of us do is they think, oh, I must be wrong. What's wrong with me?
Mm,
When the truth is you're actually just aware of things that are very buried for a lot of people. And so
yes.
I've had to really learn how to trust myself and trust senses that I have about people that they themselves might not be identifying with or aware of. Um, and so that grief example is really great. And I know, like, for me, like working with the amount of clients that I have so often, and this goes across the board no matter how old the person is, that we will begin a session and within 5 to 10 minutes we are at a place in their childhood that they never got to have an emotionally appropriate response around, and some sort of emotional pain or grief or hurt or something that happened that got buried in their subconscious that they haven't worked through, they haven't gotten to heal, that they thought they were over, that they thought they were done with, but we tap into this tender spot and it's so transformative and so healing. Like I'm thinking about a client who lost her mom when she was 2 years old, and she's, I think, like in her 60s. And that was really powerful for her. I mean, we come back to that in various ways throughout our work together, but no support, no acknowledgement. And so to be able to nurture and comfort and work with that 2-year-old part of her that was basically abandoned has been transformative.
Mm.
And so we do, like, each of us do carry a history within us that, if we haven't fully integrated, is operating somewhere in our subconscious and affecting how we show up in the world, how we relate to people. And so that energy still lives in us somewhere. But with the right tools and the right skills, we can help integrate those things, heal those things, so we don't have to carry those burdens around anymore. If we go back to child psychology, part of the reason that we do that as little ones is there's a disconnect. We want to be connected to our parent, right? And so if your dad's carrying this sadness, right, there's a disconnect there. His ability to be present with you and engage with you and be his full self with you
He
is,
can't.
he
Yeah.
can't. So as a kid,
Mhm.
you long for that. You desire, you
Right.
need
Interesting.
that.
Yeah.
So in a subconscious level, we're trying to process that out. And this is also where those empath skills get developed, or the sort of the automatic patterns. We're trying to process that feeling out for him. Like, oh, if I can just process my sadness for my dad and take it away from him, then I can have this relationship, like, that will be out of the way for me. And now we can connect in this way. Being empathic and dealing with my family dynamic and so forth had a really severe impact on my mental health, to the point of severe depression, suicidal ideation. And it was being the piece of understanding being empathic, along with understanding how it fits into my childhood and my childhood trauma, is what helped me get out of, like, literally 20 plus years of struggling with being depressed. And part of it is exactly what you're saying. Oh, I was just feeling other people's sadness and I didn't know it. And I didn't have the tools to get out from it. And then once I did, it's like the sun finally came out, right? I had a cloud over my head. And I literally felt this way, like, why do I have this cloud over my head that I can't get out from under? No matter how much self inquiry I do, how much personal development, spiritual practice, there's this cloud that I cannot shake. And it was like when I started to understand I'm empathic and I am experiencing the energy of everybody around me. That's what that cloud is, because we are also more attuned to people's dark energy, negative energy. It's evolution. We're evolutionarily wired that way. So we're picking up on all this stuff. And it's like only when I started to really clear out, like, let me get out from under everybody else's energy, everybody else's sadness. Oh, there's me. And me is joy and happiness and play and fun. And this is my true energy. And I don't have to take on the burden of the world for the entire of humanity, which some of us are want to do.
I remember being cleared from that cloud because I had that dark cloud over me too. And all of a sudden seeing color for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
saw color.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, there's so much vibrant color in the world. Everything
Yeah.
just dulled down.
Yeah.
Depression is a real thing.
Yeah. Depression is a real thing. And yeah, so 20 something years of struggling with depression. And so my book, is titled Finding Your Own Happy, because when I wrote it, I was really wanting to speak to the people that were struggling with mental health, that were depressed, that were wondering what's wrong with them, that they just couldn't put their finger on and couldn't figure out. They didn't necessarily know yet that they were empathic, but they're like, this doesn't make sense, right? And so that's the journey of understanding how childhood trauma with being empathic and having these sensitivities comes together to really have this powerful effect, that when you also learn how to understand it and work with it, is kind of the keys to the kingdom in a lot of ways. Like, if you know these things and if you know how to work with these things, you can go from this heavy darkness into, the Technicolor universe. And there is a pathway. It's like there's a pathway to come through that and to transform that.
Alana, how do you work with your clients? What offerings do you have?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know I've been touching on a whole bunch of different things that I do.
Uh,
So, a lot of my work, so a couple different things. One is working with that subconscious patterning and depth, just really getting sort of behind the curtain of what's going on for someone, including with their empathic ability. So, just really helping you understand your own energy, how it is showing up, getting clear on what is your energy and what is not, doing the healing with your subconscious if there is childhood trauma or issues that need to be addressed. One of the tools I use is something called transformational kinesiology. So it kinesiology is muscle testing. So it's using muscles of the body to help communicate with your subconscious to understand what is going on at the deepest level. And this is the tool that helped me understand my empath journey when nothing else would. I just used the tools of muscle testing to be like, okay, who is this? What am I aware of? Just get to the bottom of it. So I bring all that to bear on my work with clients. And I have a couple different sort of packages, if you will, or ways that people can engage with me. The first is we can just have a chat and I can see if I can help you, right? Is what you're going through, is it what you're struggling with, something that my body of work and knowledge would be uh effective for, right? I don't want to help people that I don't want to work with people that I don't have confidence I can really help. And then from there, usually people start out with a we pick in one issue that you want to work on. So let's say I cannot tell what is me and what's not me. I really want to get to the bottom of this. I want to learn how to separate out my energy. So we would do that. So we'd have a one to 1.5 in-depth session where we really get to the root of the things that are tripping you up. And then I'll give you some tools to work with out in the world. And when we have a follow-up just to check in to see if those tools are working. So that's like one issue at a time. And then I have a whole training program, which is how I teach you how to do the work for yourself. We go into all the things empathic, helping you, all the exercises I talk about, I teach you how to do the kinesiology, how to work with your energy, how to navigate the subconscious. So that's a much bigger thing. Usually we talk about that once we had a little success doing some of the little things. So that's sort of a nice little overview of the
yeah,
work. And
so transformational and so needed in the
yeah,
world. I really appreciate you and your work you do. So how can people get a hold of you if any of the listeners want to connect
yeah.
with you?
So you can go to my website, which is healingmindsandhearts.com. On there, you can get a free copy of my book. It's a free PDF download. So definitely, if any of this has sparked your curiosity, or if you want to have more concrete tools, go check out a copy of my book. You can also book a free consultation there, and we can have a chat about working together. And then I'm not doing a lot of promotion or social media. You can friend me on Facebook. Mostly right now, I'm posting photos of travel and beautiful places,
Good
but
for you.
it is a fun place to be connected. I do post my periodic podcast interviews as well. But
Wonderful.
yeah,
I'll
so
I'll
those are
make
the
sure
best
all of
ways.
your links are in the description
Perfect.
so people can reach out to you.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, do you have one? I've really enjoyed this conversation and I could keep going. There's
Yes,
so many different, it's
absolutely.
like I just can see this tree and we're
Yeah.
just like on the beginning of one branch.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I may invite you back sometime if you're open to it.
I would love that.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, do you have a message for, let's just say somebody is just discovering they're an empath and they are so overwhelmed by emotions? If you could just look into the camera and just speak to that one person that may be listening that's just
Yeah.
has lost their sense of their true self.
Yeah. So I want you to know that there is hope. It does get easier and it does get better. I invite you to put your hand on your heart, to bring compassion to yourself, to know what a talented, gifted, aware human being you are, and that you don't have to carry the pain and the grief of the entire world, and that you have a right to be happy, joyful, social, and have ease in functioning and moving through the world, and that your life can be full of joy.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a true pleasure.
Yes. Thank you, listeners, for joining us today. I truly hope you got as much. I mean, there's so many golden nuggets and tips and new tools for our tool belts as empaths and highly sensitive people, to start to navigate life with a little bit more ease and confidence. And I hope that you're able to take at least one of these tools and start implementing it right away, and come back to this podcast, listen to it again, reach out to Elana, and start working with her if this is something that is really, as she said, sparked something inside of you. She's an amazing asset to those of us that are navigating the array of our emotions and other people's as well. So I hope that you find whatever it is that you need so that you can just keep shining your light bright. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Soulful Reminders Podcast. I hope you're feeling inspired and empowered by the incredible insights we shared today. Remember, every story and lesson we explore is a beautiful reminder of the immense potential that resides within you. As you continue on your journey, take these soulful nudges with you. Embrace your true essence and actively work towards unlocking your full potential in every area of your life. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And don't keep this goodness to yourself. Share it with others who could use this little reminder too. Until next time, keep shining your light. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Together, we can uplift and inspire one another to live fully and authentically. You got this.